Sri Matre Namaha. Namaskaram everyone, and welcome back to our Sacred Rites and Rituals of Sanātana Dharma learning series, which is a joint presentation by the Sri Vidya Temple Society, Rochester, New York, USA, and Ashtanga Yoga Mandir, Sri Lanka. These lectures are conducted by Sri Chaitanyanandanatha, affectionately known as Ayya. Ayya is the founder and Peethadipati of the Sri Vidya Temple. Both Ayya and Amma, Srimati Nyanamba, have dedicated their lives to the noble mission of preserving and spreading the knowledge of Devi worship and the rich traditions of Shaiva Bhakti. The temple will be hosting a few events and programs in the upcoming weeks. The temple will be observing Dwaja Arohanam on the evening of September 19th. The theme for Navaratri Brahmotsavam this year will be Dakshinamurti and the Guru lineage. It will begin on September 26th and continue each day thereafter. Vijayadashmi and the Rathotsavam will take place on Tuesday, October 4th, followed by Vidya Rambam that evening. Tirtham and Dwaja Avarohanam will happen on Wednesday, October 5th, as well as Kulirti on October 6th to conclude Brahmotsavam. In addition to the Navaratri festivities, the temple will be conducting a Lalita Sahasranamavali Sari Archana on Saturday, October 1st, adorning the Divine Mother with a sari for each nama recited in the Sahasranama. All are welcome to attend and participate in this auspicious occasion. Each sari offered for each nama can be sponsored by those interested in taking part. Once the sari is offered, the sari will be given to the sponsoring individual as prasadam from the Divine Mother. Please reach out to us at info@srividya.org for more information. Just a note to all, we will not have our yoga session today. For those interested in viewing content shared during the sessions, please note that all content being discussed in these sessions will be posted after the conclusion of the respective topic on our webpage. Please use the question form to share any questions you may have pertaining to the content discussed. For those viewing our live stream, our question form can also be found on our webpage, which is srividya.org/aym-lectures. At this time, I'll hand it over to Ayya to begin today's session.
Namaskaram everyone. Hamsa Siva Soham Hamsaha Hasaka Frame Hasakshamanavarayom Hasam Sahakshamanavarayim Saho Swarupa Nirupana Hetave Swagurave Sri Annapurneshwari Amba Samena Srila Sri Amrutanandanada Saraswati Mahapattaraga Mama Sri Guru Sri Padukam Pujayami Tarpayami Namaha. My humble pranams to my esteemed Guruji, Srila Sri Amrutanandanada Saraswati of Devipuram, India. I prostrate before him and pray to him that he speak from my open heart lotus. We apologize for the few weeks that we have not been with you. The temple has had various functions that required our attention, so we were not able to conduct the usual hour-long session. Just to recap, we have been going through looking at the 25 different incarnations of Lord Shiva, as mentioned by the Panchavimsati Murti Dhyana. And you will see that we have come up to the Sarava Murti, Saraveshwara Murti, which was the last one. And we also have to remember that apart from these 25, there is another description or set of 64 avatars, various manifestations of Lord Shiva. We will be doing that at a later time. It is also important to understand that there have been many times, well over 1,000 manifestations of Lord Shiva, sometimes appearing just for the sake of a single devotee and giving the grace to that devotee. Such incidents are countless. some of them that took place in and around the Meenakshi Sundareshwara Temple in Madurai, South India, have been recorded by a sage by the name of Paranjoti Munivan. 64 miracles performed by Lord Siva are described in those. And there are other sources. Many times you will hear, for instance, the miracle that took place in Tirukadayur, where Markandeya Munivan was supposed to give up his life at the age of 16, and the Lord appears out of the Shivalingam when the devotee hugged it and kicks and slays Yama. Kala Samhara Murti. There are many incidents like this in various temples where he has appeared. Now this Panchavimsati Dhyanam is the one that is usually accepted by scholars of Saiva Siddhantam. And we have come up to Sarveshwara Murti. Now the next one in line is Neelakanta Murti. Now this story is quite common. People have heard many things about this. Neelam meaning blue, Kandam meaning neck, Murti. Now the story with minor differences is related in many texts. It is said that the Asuras and the Devas decided that for the common good of both parties, they would cooperate with each other. And according to the advice given to them by various sages, they decide to churn the ocean of milk. The ocean of milk is depicted in various sources, textual sources, as the mind, the churning of the mind. But anyway, the legend states that they used the Meru mountain to churn the ocean, and they used Vasuki, the snake, as a rope. When the churning was about to commence, the Asuras insisted that they should be allowed to be close to where the snake's head was. And the Devas, although they tried to let the Asuras know that this was not prudent, the Asuras wouldn't listen. They thought that the Devas were trying to play them out, trying to cheat them. So they insisted that they should sit. They should line up close to where the snake's head was. And the churning commenced. Because of the nooks and crannies and the various outcrops in the rock on the mountain of Meru, when the rope or the snake was used to churn it, those places started to poke the snake in various places and it was in pain. So at first, it started to regurgitate the poison that it contained in small quantities. And pretty soon it could not bear it. As the churning became more determined and more more with speed, it started to pour out the poison in large quantities. And because the asuras were very close to its head, a large number of them quickly became very sick. They were nauseous and various stages of consciousness they were losing at various stages of consciousness, and they quickly, a large number of them perished. And the poison kept coming out. It was so vile and so terrible to even look at that the devas and the asuras together, they started to run away from it. And the poison spread all over the earth, poisoning waters, poisoning the gardens, poisoning the fruit, poisoning the food products, and the people, of course. So both the groups, the asuras and the devas, went to Lord Shiva and begged him to do something to save creation. And Shiva is known for his compassion. Karunamurtaye Namah. He is supposed to be very compassionate. Sulabha Prasannaya Namah. Easily he can manifest. So he goes and he looks at the poison and he starts to drink it. The poison is brought to him and he drinks the thing. And because of the wild nature and this dangerous poison, his body begins to turn blue. And he was kind of disoriented for some time. The Devi, observing this, through her willpower, collected all the poison from the various parts of his body and brought it up to his neck. And she kept her hand there, and the poison would not go, so that the poison would not go any lower than the neck. And Swami is supposed to have rested on her lap for some time until he could gather himself, and then stood up. The only temple that depicts this is in the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu. It's a place called Suruttapalli, where Swami is depicted lying on Devi's lap, with his head on her lap. And henceforth, he was to be known as Neelakanda. Neelam is blue, Kandam is neck. So one with the blue neck. There is a reference to this in the Sri Lalita Sahasranamam, in the Nama Sri Kandatha Sarirani. Sri normally means auspiciousness and nectar, amritam. But in this instance, Sri Kandam means poison. The poison what you see is Surutapalli temple, where Swami is lying on Devi's lap. And you can see the sages worshipping him. Anyway, the Sri Kanda Artha Sharirini, the one who occupies half the body of the one who has poison in his neck. That's what the name means. Anyway, once Swami stopped the poison from hurting anyone, before he stopped them, they were running when the poison was flowing towards them. Both the Devas and the Asuras were running clockwise and anti-clockwise. This is reenacted during Pradosha Kala Puja, where you go first after the first Namaskaram, which is called the Soma Suda Namaskaram. You walk clockwise around the Shiva temple up to the Gomukam. The Gomukam is where the Tirtham, the Abhisheka Tirtham comes and falls. And you don't cross the Gomukam. And you return back anti-clockwise and come all the way up to Nandi. And you are supposed to utter one request to the Nandi. Sometimes I see people there standing for about 10 minutes. They must be telling him the entire problems that they have and the rest of the world has. The direction is only one. He will not respond if you do that. And then you're supposed to go up to Sandeshwara or the Gomukam again and then walk back clockwise again. So this Pradikshanam is done during Pradosha Kala. What it really means is that the first small walk up to the Gomukam represents the pulmonary circulation, that is the blood going from the heart to the lungs for purification. And from the lungs, when it comes back to the heart, to the left ventricle, which is the largest in the four chambers of the heart, it will come to the first, it will come to the upper chamber, the auricle, and then down to the ventricle. From there, it is pumped up through the systemic arch to the rest of the body. Anyway, the pulmonary circulation, heart, lung, heart, is one part of the Soma Suda Pradikshanam, and the systemic circulation is the longer part. Anyway, after this, after Swami ingested the poison and kept it on his throat, what he did was, he blessed the snake, Vasuki, that it won't feel so much pain. And by this time, the serpent had adjusted itself to the poking of the various crags and other rocks in the mountain of Meru. And the churning was carried on. And we have heard from various sources, textual sources, that different kinds of ratnams, ratnam is something precious, different kinds of ratnams came from the Milky Ocean. In some texts, it says 9 ratnams came out of it. The other sources say that there were 14 of them that came out. So I think we would take a side street to find out a little bit more of what came out. And a large number of herbs and other things were added to the ocean. And when the Milky Ocean was being churned, first Chandra appeared in the form of a crescent moon. Shiva took charge of the Chandra and placed it on his head in the matted locks and adorned himself with the crescent moon. So the first Ratnam that came out of the ocean was Chandran, and it was taken by Swami. Of course, there are other stories of how the Chandran came to be, the crescent moon came to be on the matted locks of Shiva. There's a story that on a Chaturthi, Ganapati was going somewhere. And you know the form of Ganapati. It was short with a big belly and fat legs and fat arms. And the moon was watching from the sky, and he saw Ganapati walking, and different parts of his body were shifting and shaking in different directions, and it was quite funny. So he laughed. He laughed out loud. Ganapati, on hearing the laughter, looked around him to see who was laughing at him. He couldn't. He tried to look up, he couldn't look up because of the fat that was there behind his head. So it is said that he lay down and looked at the moon. And when he found that the moon was laughing at him, he cursed it. That's one story. And the curse, when Chandra realized that what he had done was wrong, he begged forgiveness from Ganapati, and Mahaganapati pardoned him and told him, once the curse has been uttered, it cannot be taken back. But Swami, he went and asked Swami for, to try and escape the curse, and Swami gave him a place on his head, and the waxing and waning of the moon started to take place from there. That is one story. There's another story where Chandran is supposed to have gone to Daksha Prajapati and asked him for all of his 27 daughters, beginning with Kritika and ending with Bharani. So Daksha Prajapati, in turn, extracted a promise from Chandra that he will treat every one of his daughters exactly the same way, with the same amount of gifts, the same amount of affection, everything. Whatever that he was enjoying with one girl, he would enjoy with the same quantity and quality. And Chandra agreed. He was married to all 27. Those are the nakshatras that you see. He married them, but eventually fell in love with Rohini. He was so much in love with her that he completely forgot and neglected the other girls. And they waited and waited and waited that he would return to them, but he didn't. So they went to the father and complained. And Dakshan who was a hot-tempered fellow, came to Chandra and demanded an explanation. And of course, Chandran couldn't give any explanation. So it is said that he cursed him. And to escape that curse, he went and fell at Shiva's feet, and Shiva, feeling the compassionate one, he took him and placed him on his head and told him, okay, the waxing and waning process will take place. You will have to live with this for the rest of your life. So this is the second story. So the first Ratnam that came from the Milky Ocean was Chandra. And Shiva used him as an ornament. The second one was Parijata. This Parijatam is a flower that is highly perfumed. And once it blooms, it will stay like that, fresh for all of time, and in the entire neighborhood, entire world where it was, would smell of the perfume. And there happened to be a time when the Parijata flower, it was taken by Lord Indra to his court, and he kept it there. Of course, many of you are familiar, if you are devotees of Subramanya, there's a story that a Shakti Upasaka by the name of Sambandhandan, who lived in Tiruvannamalai and who was an important advisor to the king in his court, became insanely jealous of Sri Arunagirinatha, who was, in his view, an upstart. Arunagiri, of course, was a Subramanya Upasaka, and his soulful singing would bring Subramanya to any place where he desired. Again, Subramanya is also referred to as Sulabha Prasanna, one who would appear easily to you. And Arunagiri's fame was spreading far and wide because of his primary composition, which was called Tirupugal. And he started singing, and in the most exquisite Tamil, flowery, beautiful descriptions of Subramanya and his consorts and the places where he had temples. Arunagiri's singing was out of this world. And his fame started spreading everywhere. And the king took note of this and invited Arunagiri to his court and started to get advice from him. Sambandhandan felt slighted. He saw this whippersnapper, some upstart, coming into the palace and taking his place, and the king is now getting advice from him, ignoring Sambandhandan. He was insanely jealous. So he started to plot ways of getting at Arunagiri. Of course, Arunagiri had a checkered past. I will not go into all of those things. He was completely living on his senses. He was going after sensual pleasures and food, drink, women, all that was in his life, and he messed his life up. And at the point of suicide, Lord Subramanya saved him and wrote Om on his tongue and asked him to sing. And that is when he started singing. All this happened in Tiruvannamalai, in the Tiruvannamalai temple. At the entrance, there is a Kambathu Ilayanar Koil. That's where this incident happened when he tried to commit suicide. Anyway, Sambandha Andan told the king, I will ask the Divine Mother to appear so you can see her. Do you think this fellow can bring Subramania to see you? And he was playing on the emotions of the king. The king wanted to have darshan of both the Devi and Subramania. So he asked him, can you bring Subramania to see me? Arunagiri, knowing that the Lord will please him, the Lord to please him will do anything, he said, maybe I can. But let the senior Sambandha Andan have first crack. Sambandha Andan was a Kali Upasaka. And he chanted and sang and did pujas and havans and all the rest of it. She wouldn't appear to him. He was beside himself. Went on chanting, went on doing the pujas. Finally, she appeared. And she told him, your mind is not pure. This is the last time I will appear in front of you. I will not show myself to the king just because you ask me, because your mind is not clean. However, I will give you one boon. Sambandha Andan said, okay, if Arunagiri calls Subramania, Subramania is your child, you hug him and don't let him go. And his attempt to bring the deity down so that the king could see him was a flop, was a complete failure. So the king asked Arunagiri, can you try? Arunagiri sang a couple of Tirupuvals, brought the whole court to the Tiruvannamalai temple, and there on a pillar, Subramania appeared in all his glory. What happened? The Devi was hugging him, not letting him go. And a couple of songs Arunagiri has sung with proper devotion, with the same amount of intensity, and nothing happened. So he closed his eyes and he saw that in Kailas, Devi is hugging Subramania to her on her lap. She's hugging him, not letting him go. Subramania is trying to break free and come, but she won't let him. So what Arunagiri does is he sings something called Mayil Vrutam, song on the peacock. And the golden peacock in Kailash, when he started to sing, it opened its plume and it started to dance. And the Devi, forever interested in the arts and in the music and in the melodious songs, was watching the peacock with intensity, and she relaxed her hold on Subramania and he wriggled himself free and appeared in Tiruvannamalai on the pillar in the temple. Up to this day, if you go there, the pillar where he appeared is still there. So having failed the first time, the second time, Sambandha Andan continued to fester and burn inside because of the popularity with which the people of Tiruvannamalai and the king and the courtiers were treating him, he hatched another plot. Knowing fully well that the Parijata flower now is in Indra's court. Remember, I told you when it came out, Indra took it to his court. So it was there. So he goes and tells the king, he goes to the queen and sets her up to say, he talks about the Parijata flower and tells her all the stories about it and how famous this thing is and what a perfume it can bring to the kingdom. And says there's one person who can bring it. And that is Arunagiri. If you ask him, he'll go and bring it. So she goes to the king and tells him. So he's working backwards. And the king eventually asks Arunagiri, why don't you? The queen wants to have Parijatam. Can you bring it? Arunagiri climbs up to the 7th level of the southern Gopuram, which is today called Kili Gopuram. Incidentally, in the so many temple towers, which is called a Gopuram, in the so many temple towers that are there in Tiruvannamalai temple, only in that southern Gopuram, there are parrots. Up to this day, there are spaces for them to nest and do. In other Gopurams that are scattered around the temple, they don't go there. Only in the southern Gopuram, they are there. Arunagiri climbs up to the 7th level. And using a yogic technique known as Parakaya Pravesam. Parakaya Pravesam means, para means something that is not your own. Kaya means body. So, entering another body that is not your own is what it means. So he climbs up, leaves his body in the 7th level, and using the yogic technique of Parakaya Pravesam, enters the body of a parrot and flies out to Devaloka. And he obtains the Parijata flower and he brings it back. And the entire kingdom of this king is now perfumed and they are so happy. But while he was gone, Sambandhandan, knowing exactly what he would have to do to go and get the Parijata flower, tells the king, how come in your Shivalayam there is a dead body? You will have to purify, you will have to go through this purification ceremony now. The king says, what body? He says, there is a dead body. He doesn't tell him that it is Arunagirinath's body. And the king, of course, sends his soldiers, they secure the place and they scour the whole entire complex. And while they are going up, they go up all the Gopurams, and the southern Gopuram at the 7th level, they find the body. And they report back saying, yes, that is the body. Even they neglect to tell the king that it is Arunagirinath's body. The king orders it disposed of, so it is cremated. And Arunagiri's body is gone. When he comes back with Parijatam, it's not there. Now he's stuck in the parrot's body. And knowing that it is the Leela or the divine play of Lord Subramanya and the Devi, he flies into the sanctum of the Devi temple and settles down on her hand. That is why In the Meenakshi temple, in the Kamakshi temple, in the Tiruvannamalai temple, in the Unnamalai Sannidhi, you will find a parrot perched on the hands of the Devi. This is the story of that parrot. And he merges with her. That's the end of it. So anyway, this Parijata flower, this is one story about the Parijata flower. It is always important, I think, when you mention something like this, to go around the neighborhood and try to find out what other things have been said about this. The second story is that Krishna, Lord Krishna, he had two wives, remember, Satyabhama and Rukmani. And he talks about the Parijata flower that is in Indra's court, in Indralokam, in the city, divine city of Amaravati. And he describes the perfume. So Satyabhama and Rukmani want to have this flower. They want to at least see it. Now remember, once it blooms, it stays fresh forever. And the perfume is there forever. So Krishna approaches Indra and asks him for the flower, and Indra refuses. And when he refuses, like the Kshatriyas of those days, if they want to have something and somebody refuses it, they have to fight. He goes to war with Indra. And when he goes to war, Indra is defeated, of course. How can he fight with Krishna, who is an avatar of Mahavishnu? He couldn't do anything. So Krishna captures the flower and brings it to Bhuloka, brings it to earth. And Indra is frothing mad that he has lost the flower. That this treasure from Amaravati, Indralokam, is now on the earth. And he wants, like, nobody's business to curse Krishna, but he couldn't do it because Krishna is Mahavishnu. So he curses the flower. And he says that the moment it blooms, it will wither. That means only a momentary smell you will get. And that it should have a very short life. Many of the Puranas in later years that Vyasa Bhagavan gave, they describe Kalpavriksha as the tree that came out of the Parijata, that it came out instead of Parijata. So this is the second one that has come out of the... And of course, Mahalakshmi comes out of the ocean. And Vishnu looks at her and he falls in love with her and marries her. So two divinities, Shiva and Mahavishnu, have taken possession of the first two or three things, that Ratnams that came out of the ocean, Milky Ocean. The third one, of course, was Parijata, which was taken by Indra. Okay. The third one, Airavada. Airavada was an elephant. It is said it is the elephant of the divinities, and it has 4 tusks and 4 trunks. And it's unbelievably strong and pure white in color. So the moment Indra sets eyes on it, he wants it. And the other devas who are there, they are not going to oppose the desire of their king. So they let him have it. So the third divinity, Indra, takes possession of Airavata. There are many stories dealing with Airavata. One of the stories is the one that you are familiar with in Jambukeshwaram. The elephant that was cursed had to come down to earth, and it was running amok in the jungle, subduing all the other animals, torturing them, frightening them, until one day it came upon a Shivalingam, and its mind went inwards immediately, and it became a devotee. And you know the rest of the story. I don't need to repeat that here. There's another story. In the town of Madurai, in the city of Madurai, Airavata is cursed and it's roaming around in the jungles, wild. And one day it comes across a Swayambhu Lingam. And that Swayambhu Lingam is Sundareshwara. The Sundareshwara Lingam, the Madurai Lingam, is supposed to be older than Kailash. And it starts to worship him there. So, three things we have seen. We have 10 minutes for questions. We will continue with this next time. Can we go to the questions? In depictions of the nakshatras, some are depicted as males. I was under the assumption all of the nakshatras were wives of Chandra. Are the depictions incorrect? They are not, except that they are from different Puranas. Some of the Puranas, the stories tell of male and female nakshatras. But in this story of Daksha and Chandra, all are female. Okay, it depends on which source you are looking at. Next question.
Next question here is, why is there an extra pradakshina during certain days of the week?
Why is there an extra pradakshina during certain days of the week, Sani and Soma? That's done only during Pradosha Kalam, to the best of my knowledge. That is called Soma Suda Pradakshina. There are extra pradakshina going on there, except that it is not an exact pradakshina. You go halfway and then come back and go halfway like that, clockwise and anti-clockwise. Exactly the directions that the Devas and Asuras were running to get away from Hala Hala Visham, the poison. That is why the extra pradakshina is there for Pradosham, Sani Pradosham and Soma Pradosham. Because those are supposed to be the ones Sani is supposed to have, Saneshwaran is supposed to have done the Pradosha Puja and done the Pradakshanam, for which he was given Ishvara Pattam. There are very few of them who have. Ravaneshwaran is one of them, Saneshwaran is one of them, and Nandigeshwaran is one of them. So that is why the Sani Pradosham is there. Soma, because of his special relationship with Shiva, he also worships Shiva during Pradosham, Soma Pradosham, and does an extra namaskaram. So that to commemorate that, Sani Pradosham and Soma Pradosham are considered to be special. That is why there is an extra pradakshina.
One question about the moon, Ayya. Normally the moon is depicted as a crescent moon in Shiva's head. But according to what you just said today, he is actually waxing and waning. Is that
Yeah, but he took him when his form had diminished to that size, the crescent. If he had not taken him and put him on his tresses, moon would have perished. That's the story. So to commemorate that, he is shown as one with a crescent. Actually, the crescent moon on Shiva's head is the Amrita Kalasam. When you knock yourself, Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnu, this portion of the head is called the Mastakam. It's more prominent in an elephant. You will see those two. Inside it is supposed to contain Amardam. And when you knock, that Amardam starts to flow downwards through the spinal column and then wetting all the nerves, all the cranial nerves. So the story is that is an Amrita Kalasam. Okay. And it is not shown as a full moon. But the people who worship the Devi, people who are Sri Vidya Upasakas, there is one Upasana of the Devi where you picture the Sri Chakram on the moon, on the face of the full moon, and do the puja to it in your mind. And it is supposed to break the Amrita Kudam in your head, and then. So that's the other explanation for that. Next one.
Is there any meaning to the sequence in which, we talked about the Chandra, Parijata, the sequence in which they appeared out of the ocean?
This is the order in which they came. I will be talking about this the next week. Chandra, Parijata, Airavada, Kamadhenu, Varuni. Varuni is supposed to be, according to some textual sources, the daughter of Varuna. She is also the goddess of wine. Kalpavriksha, Apsaras, Uchchiravasas. Uchchiravas is a horse. Goddess Lakshmi. Panjajanya, Vishnu's mace and magic bow. The Danu and the Dandam. Various gems like Kaustuba and Chintamani. Dhanvantari, and finally the Amrita. So this is the order in which they came, and this is the full 14 set. Some of them stop with 9, some stories. Next one.
Last question, is what is the symbolism of the poison that comes out of the journey?
Interesting question. When you do yoga sadhana, when you do Shiva sadhana, when you do Sri Vidya sadhana, any one of them, any of these vidyas that if you follow and do, you end up finally, before you can achieve siddhi in the mantras or in the puja or in the upasana that you are doing, the siddhis will be preceded by all the negativities that you have pushed down over a period of time and maybe over a period of many hundreds of years through successive births, push them down without dealing with them. The poison is what comes out, what is churned up, especially in Sri Vidya Upasana. If you do Varagi Upasana, she will dig up the muck that is down there and force you to face it. That is the poison. Sometimes it can be very unpleasant things that you have pushed down, they can destroy you. Okay? And the answer also is given in that thing where the devas go and fall at Swami's feet. You have to surrender yourself. That is the answer for it. So the poison is what the negativities that are stored in the subconscious mind that are dug up.
That's all the questions for today.
Okay, thank you very much. It's nice seeing all of you after so many weeks. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Aya, for sharing more about Shiva in today's session. To access all content from prior sessions, please visit srividya.org/AYM lectures. We would like to thank everyone for joining us for today's session.